we are going to open the November 15th board meeting for Benicia Unified School District. So if we would please stand. And I see Mrs. Zeta here. Is Mr. Maselli here as well? Would both of you please lead us in the pledge this evening? These are our new board members, our newly elected board members, and they will be joining us, joining our team come December. So would you please lead us in the pledge?
Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please be seated.
Thank you.
And thank you to Sherry and to Mark. Okay. I need to ask for a motion for an approval of our agenda, please.
Make a motion to approve the agenda as posted.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes. All right, we're going to start with our high school career tech ed program as our highlight. Dr. Young, we're ready to start with our highlight.
So I would like to recognize and welcome this very special person to the podium, Mr. Andreas Kaiser, who's one of our CTE teachers extraordinaire. He's the department chair at the high school, and as part of expanding college and career opportunities in our wonderful district, a focus has been placed on increasing our career and technical education classes for our students as we talk about college and career. And just as a reminder, a CTE pathway is 2 courses in a sequence taught by a CTE teacher, of which Mr. Kaiser is. These teachers have had 3 years of professional work in their field before getting into teaching. And so Mr. Kaiser has graciously decided to join us this evening. Thank you. And to share some of the great work that we're doing over at the high school in this wonderful program. So welcome.
Okay, thank you very much.
Glad you're here.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited always to promote our program. We have some incredible classes and new teachers as well. And we're expanding our CTE program at the high school. So I'm not going to talk much, but if there's any questions, please, anytime, come over to the high school, visit us, come see the shops, come see what the teachers are doing. Email me, call me if you have any questions. I want to kind of start a little bit because a lot of our students and parents and staff don't know all the programs that we have. And so I kind of want to highlight these first so you can get an idea of what everything is. So we have 7 CTE pathways currently. So a pathway, like Dr. Yang said, is you have to have at least 2 classes in a certain subject area to be considered a pathway. So we have the design and visual media arts pathway, and you would take, in the purple, that zone are the CTE classes. The Get Focused class at the top in the blue, that is like a lead-in to a lot of our classes. That's every freshman has to take that now. But it is a very career tech-minded course, so we kind of put that up there to say that's where freshmen kind of start. In the purple, you can take those classes as a freshman through senior. And in the design and visual media arts, we have film production, graphic design, and broadcast production. So those are the 3 classes in that pathway. And in the ICT, the Information Communications Technology pathway, we have graphic design, digital media, and AP Computer Science Principles, which is a class that I'm teaching. This is the 3rd year of us having that class. Engineering Architecture has 3 classes in that pathway. Intro to Engineering Architecture, Intro to Programming and Robotics, and Advanced Engineering Design, which is a new class that I'm very excited that the board, oh, sorry. Is it better?
Well, it's because it's being recorded.
Oh, okay. I didn't know. That's a new class that I'm very excited to say. I'll take this like this. Is now gets UC A through G credit, but also gets advanced credit. So it's as an AP class, the board approved it, and the UC also approved it. You get 5 points on the GPA as if you were taking an AP class. The building and construction trades, we have Mr. Shields teaches those classes, and we have construction and building trades, advanced construction. We have an auto class, which is like basic welding and auto, and he also has an advanced auto welding class. Our new instructor, we have Mrs. Anouk Dorrance, and she's teaching Intro to Medical Careers and a Medical Science and Terminology class. And we also have Samantha Sanchez, which is an instructor that we've had for a while, but she's now in the CTE department teaching her dance and advanced dance. And she's going to be expanding that to, I think, 3 levels of dance coming for next year, hopefully. And finally, we have an environmental resources pathway, which we have a alternative energy, wind, water, and solar class, and a scientific research and design class. And Josh Bradley teaches those classes. So that's kind of the breakdown of all the different pathways. The exciting things for students who are in these pathways, after they finish 2 years in the program, they're recognized, they get a certificate of completion of that pathway, and they'll be hopefully recognized at graduation that, you know, all those students will stand and be recognized as completing one of those pathways. So we try to encourage the students to try to take at least 2 years in one of these so they can kind of see what careers are possible and learn more about them. So highlights from some of these programs is on my next slide. This is this graphic is also online. It's hard to see, but it's on bit.ly/BHS CTE pathways, and it's on our department website, I believe, where people can go and see all that. It's on my personal website as well, for my school, my class website. So here's some of the fun things we've been doing in CTE. So I'll kind of start over here. The new medical instructor, Ms. Dorrance, she has done a great job of having a lot of guest speakers come to her room. So we've had OBGYN specialist, we've had labor and delivery nurses, we've had a nurse from the correctional facility come in, we've had firemen come in, we had an expert on vaping come in and talk to the students about the dangers of vaping. So she does a really great job. She's constantly having new people come in and talk about different medical careers so they can see all the different options. We have, for the automotive program, Mr. Shields took several of his students to Las Vegas, to the SEMA big car show in Las Vegas, and the students were there for several days seeing all the new advances in automotive technology, and they took workshops and classes, and we're really excited about that. And I have one of my students is actually in that class. She's going to be presenting to my students about all the high-tech automotive technology she saw at the SEMA. In his wood shops, I don't know if any of you saw or heard about the haunted house. So the high school did a haunted house project. It was CTE classes together with the visual performing arts classes, and some math classes also participated. And we did an incredible haunted house where the students built kind of like a walkthrough, a creative walkthrough. I don't know if any of you guys got a chance to see it. Fortunately, did you see it? You saw the pictures? And there's so much there that we could have photographed, but I just included really neat. The wood shop made like a walkthrough oven where you could kind of walk through, and it had LED lights that we put up so that it kind of looked like flames coming down. And that was one of the things that they've been working on. We have the intro to computer classes taught by a new instructor, Larry Karnarski. He is doing a lot of innovative things with his freshmen. And one of them is, he showed me, is game design, and they're designing their own video games using a Flow Lab simulator software, which you can kind of see over here. We have the advanced dance. I put the Mary Farmer's Falcon because they're going to Mary Farmer, the advanced dance class, and they're training students at Mary Farmer how to do different dances, and they're going to have a performance there. So I thought that was really great outreach that Samantha Sanchez is doing with her students. There's My Robotics doing little like props for the haunted house, like a rat with lights that are blinking, so I included that. And I have a house project here that we've been doing, and I'm going to invite the board officially on December 5th and 6th, if any of them want to come and join, and if anyone else wants to come and join and see these presentations or be a judge. They're picking lots around Benicia. These are my intro to architecture students, and they're going to design homes. Here's one of the homes they designed for these lots, and they're going to look at. We've had people from real estate come in, and we have a landscape architect coming in. We have a city planner coming in to find out what it takes to build homes, new homes in Benicia. So we have a lot of guest speakers coming in to teach the students what it takes to build these homes, and they're going to make presentations on their homes and the budget, what it takes to do the construction costs, the permitting costs. Apparently there's school fees too you have to pay when you do new constructions because we have such great schools. And then they have to calculate what they would sell their homes for and what their profit would be after they pay for the lots and pay for all the fees. So they're going to be presenting that. Hopefully some architects will be there, and our engineers, city planners as judges. Anyone who's kind of excited by something like that can come and watch or come and be a judge. I'd love to have as many judges as possible so that they see and get some feedback on their presentations. And finally, we're really excited to talk about our partnership with Diablo Valley College. A lot of our classes at CTE are articulated, which means students get college credit for taking a high school class. For example, all 4 of my classes are now articulated, and they get college credit. So I teach college all day, pretty much. Every class I teach. If they took all my classes, they would have like a semester of college out of the way, pretty much, from what units they can get. And we have our new instructor, Mr. Konarski, is working on getting articulation for his class's digital media class. And we also have Ms. Durant. She already got approval and has college credit for her medical classes. And we're working on the dance class to get college credit through DVC. So that's kind of in a nutshell the things we've been working on, and we're very excited of all the new staff and all the new programs. So I invite you again, if you're ever interested, please come down, take a look, anytime, open invitation. We all would love to see you all there and show off our programs. Thank you.
Mr. Kaiser, before you sit down, I had a quick question. Is the environmental science class pathway, how is that related to what used to be our Echo Academy?
So Josh Bradley used to teach in the Echo Academy. So I think he's, the courses have been modified a bit, and they're in now our CTE pathway. So they're part of the CTE program and can get funding through CTE to help continue those programs and the students who have been doing a great job. So that was really nice that we're able to continue what they had at the Echo Academy, even though it's not the Echo Academy, it's some of the similar coursework.
Oh, excellent. Thank you. I'm glad to hear that the transition that way.
Right. I just want to say thank you as well. You guys are doing an amazing job, and it's really excited to go to the classes and see them, and I do encourage people to come. It's pretty impressive. So thank you for making that happen.
Well done.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay. All right. On to reports with our students this morning, or this evening.
Hello, everybody. My name is Ashlyn Smith. I am Benicia High School's current ASB Vice President.
I'm Peyton Pedersen, the current ASB Secretary.
And we just wanted to report on a couple of current events. In the past couple of weeks, leadership has been wrapping up our Homecoming and Red Ribbon Week festivities. Last Friday, BHS honored Benicia Unified veterans with a ceremony in the Red Brick Quad and a Sprinkles catered lunch afterwards. Also last week, band competed in a review in Merced, and as usual, they did very well.
This week, JV and varsity boys and girls play in some of their first games of the season. Varsity football has been waiting to play their second playoff game, but has been delayed by the fires multiple times. Leadership has also been collecting cans for the past 2 weeks for our annual canned food drive. And following Thanksgiving break, intramural volleyball will be played the week we return at lunch. And our students will be preparing for finals, but not before our annual wellness week.
All right, thank you very much. Good job. Okay, Dr. Young, superintendent's report.
Well done. Thank you. Nice. So just a couple of quick items. I was talking informally when I walked in about the air, this week. It's been a tough week, and we monitoring it as closely as possible, and using the sites that we're directed to use, and we just got to the point during the course of the day today that it just wasn't getting better and it was going to continue to get worse as the week progressed. So we were able to, close the school and give everybody a break, and hopefully that we'll get some rain. I think somebody forecasted in the room here tonight that we'll get some rain next week, and we can all get some relief. And really, as difficult it was for us during the last few days. We're thinking about those poor souls that were lost in Paradise, and certainly in Southern California. It's a very trying time for the state of California. But we'll get through it and keep moving forward. And I appreciate everybody's patience. And just a quick note on Benicia, how involved this community is. When I was with a group of superintendents this morning, we meet once a month, the Solano County superintendents, and we meet for about an hour and 15 minutes and go over some agenda items. And then we have a meeting called a SELPA meeting for special ed. And I was totally not engaged in either of those meetings, unlike my other superintendent colleagues, who weren't getting any emails, any phone calls, any texts. And I said, "What are you doing, Charles?" I said, "It's Benicia. These are very involved people. They want to know what's happening." So they thought that was curious. So, but we got through it. And just in closing, at this point in the meeting, I'd like to wish everybody a wonderful Thanksgiving with your family and your friends. And I always think this is an important time of year where we just slow down and take a moment to be thankful for our health and for our loved ones and our friends and everything in our lives that are going well. So thank you to all the trustees, and we'll have a nice changing of the guards at our December board meeting for our new trustees. So on we go. Thank you.
Thank you. Board reports?
I just would like to point out that the Benicia Education Foundation is having a fundraiser on November 30th. The Sip and Stroll will be downtown. A great opportunity to participate in some pre-holiday shopping and raise a little money for the schools. As you know, the Education Foundation supports many of our programs in our elementary, middle, and high school. And so we want to make sure that we also keep a collaborative working relationship with them.
Mr. Mead?
I just remind people, there's been a lot of, with all the smoke and everything, that you try to do your best judgment. I know that we've been constant talks every couple hours up until 10, 11 o'clock at night, still talking about what's, and looking at all the forecasts. And there's several complaints because we didn't close the schools. And just, there's also a lot of people saying, "Thank you for not closing schools, because I didn't know what to do with my kids if you did." We're trying to do our best. And the forecast was the weather, the pollutant was going to get lighter up until yesterday. And even a lot of the people who's trying to do their best to forecast what the air is going to be, we're still saying that it's supposed to get better. So, my response is, we're trying to do the best for your kids, for our staff, for our teachers, and we're going off the best information that we get. And everyone's saying, well, Purple Air saying this, and Air Now saying this, and Bay Area Management Air Quality District is saying this. We're doing our best. And if you don't like what we're doing, you're free to take leave your kids at home. And that was put out in the email earlier in the week. So don't beat us up, because we're trying to provide the best and still provide education for your students. So that's my 2 cents. So.
Ms. Bonet, do you have anything to report?
Sort of in the spirit of the season and in spirit of gratitude, I just wanted to, and as I'm winding up my stint up here in my seat, just acknowledge all the hardworking people and the dedication to the kids of our community that I've experienced being up here with the trustees here, the staff, the administrative staff, and also the teachers and classified staff. And I know as a parent, I'm incredibly grateful for all the hard work people are doing, and it's very apparent and obvious to me. So I just wanted to give some gratitude out.
Thank you. So I also just wanted to share today too, I have visited a couple schools this past week, and I'm going to put out a plea for one of them. But I want to start by thanking Mr. Scott, because I got to walk the elective wheels for the sixth graders the other day at Benicia Middle School, and to see the kids so engaged and having so much fun was really kind of cool. I wanted to play some of the things with them, but I was kind of a little too old for that stuff, they said. So anyways, but I mean, the kids looked like they were having a great time, and I just wanted to thank them for letting me pop in again. I also went to Robert Semple, and Robert Semple has, I don't know how many of you have been into the main hallway at Robert Semple where they have those incredible tiles that their fifth graders do. So Christina has boxes of tiles from the past fifth grade, the past two, and hasn't been able to get them on the wall. So I put out a call on Facebook for anybody who knows how to put those tiles up, has that talent, and they'd be willing to dedicate a couple of hours to maybe help the school to get them posted. So I'm also going to put it out on the meeting, is that she's looking for someone to kind of help them do that. Their goal is to eventually have the whole main corridor covered with the tiles that the students personalize for each one of their graduates as they leave the fifth grade. So she's kind of looking for some help. So if anybody knows anybody, you can either email Mrs. Moore or maybe Mrs. Jensen or Dr. Young. He needs a few more emails. I think it would be really great to know, but we're looking for somebody that might have some time and some talent that they'd like to share with our Robert Semple kids. I think that would be great to do. Also, I did want to thank the parents that I have been in communication with the AIR. I get it's been hard, and they've been very patient and very gracious with me, and for that I want to thank them. And as I have shared with my colleagues and several of the parents I talk to, I fall into that sensitive group because I'm one of those people that does have asthma. So I have been living indoors, and I've got this great mask that I'm moving around with, and I know it's a pain and I know it's hard, but we just have to think about the bigger picture with the people with the fires, and that's the thing that I find so heartbreaking. I mean, it seems like it always happens at a holiday time, and I know it's not intentional, but it does, and it's like they're losing homes, they're coming down to our area now, and they have nothing. I mean, we have had our school sites, our police department, and some of us have been collecting things because children have no toys, they have no change of clothes, parents have no place, they don't know where to go. So it's just about keeping it all in perspective. And then last night I read an article, and I was going to post it, and I will do it when I get home today, because it was a great article about heroes in the fires. And they talked about, we always talk about firemen, we always talk about the policemen, who are incredible. They are amazing resources, and they work hours and hours and hours on end. But this one story was put out, and it was about the middle school teachers at Paradise. And they talked about, how we all have these best laid safety plans for our schools. And yet when this fire was moving, I think it was 30 football fields a minute, a safety plan out the window. I mean, you don't have time to even think about that safety plan, and you're certainly not going to take the time to line kids up and make sure you've got everybody in classes in a nice, neat row. And those teachers just stuffed as many kids as they could into cars and got them out of there to the closest evacuation centers, and had kids on their cell when they could get through, calling parents to say they were safe and they were with their teachers. And those are heroes we don't sometimes hear about. And I just wanted to share that and put that out, because I think it was amazing. It brought me to tears last night, and I'm choking up again now. But I just thought it was a beautiful story. And I just wanted to take and say that I would like, if everybody agrees, just to dedicate our meeting to all the heroes. They really are the unsung heroes of that protect our children in our society. So I want to say thank you. The police, the fire, and the teachers up there, they were pretty amazing. So that's my plea for the group. Okay, now I'm done. Okay, with that said, pardon me? Oh, yes. Ladies, if you would like to leave at this point, that would be great. No homework tonight, because tomorrow there's no school. Okay, and with that said, we're going to move on to comments from the members of the public. Members of the public may address the board at a regular meeting on any item within the board's jurisdiction. Cards may be completed requesting to address the board. They're available at the back table and may be submitted to the board secretary at the meeting. The governing board allows speakers to speak at regular meetings on agendized and not agendized matters under public comment. Comments are limited to no more than 3 minutes per speaker. By law, no action may be taken on any item raised during the public comment periods, and matters may be referred to staff for placement on future agendas of the governing board. And with that, it looks like we have a few speakers. Is that Maya Yada? Maya? Would you like to come on up? And then behind her, we'll have you come up two at a time and get one behind each other. And then Cody Hardig. Is Cody here? Okay. Okay.
Hi, my name is Neha Yadav, and I'm a senior at Benicia High School. I'm varsity captain and #1 singles on the girls' tennis team, and I'd like to talk about the condition of our courts. So I've been doing tennis for 7 years now. I went through the middle school program, and I went through 4 years of the high school program. And I've consistently been astounded by the support I've gotten from my coaches, but at the same time depressed by the condition of our courts. At the middle school, that's where the courts are in the worst condition, and I went from horrible courts to less horrible courts in the high school. And I noticed it in 6th grade when I first started. And 7 years later, I noticed it now at the high school as a senior. It's embarrassing for our school because we have a winning record as the girls' tennis team. And when we go to other schools to compete, we see the conditions of their courts, and they're very well kept and they're in very good condition. But when teams come to our school, we have to tell them to watch out for the hump on court 5 or like the crack on court 4, because if a ball moves in a different direction, that's because of the condition of our courts, and we have to replay the point. And it doesn't reflect how we are as a team, because we're a strong team and we've worked very hard to do well in the new league, but the courts don't really reflect that because of their condition. And also, it's not really an encouraging incentive for people to join the tennis team, because if you look at like our $1 million stadium, it makes you think that yes, the football team and the track field, they're very well kept, which means the team has good conditions to train and practice. But the tennis courts, you see them and they are not in very good condition, and it doesn't really provide that much of an incentive to join the team because you don't think that there's that much support for that team. In the middle school, you can barely even see the paint on the courts, and if you tried to walk across the courts without stepping on a crack, I doubt you'd be able to make it all the way across. And the high school, it's slightly in less of a bad condition, but it still needs to be fixed. And the courts, our tennis courts should reflect the strength of our team, and right now they don't really do so. So I would just like to ask you to please consider helping fix the condition of our courts so that we can improve our strength as a team and look better for other schools. Thank you.
Cody?
Can you speak a little away from the microphone? We have it turned down as far as we can, and it's distorting. So just stand a little way.
Cody?
Right behind that is Azita Bounce.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the Benicia Unified School District. My name is Cody Hardig, a graduate of Benicia High School, class of 2017, and a current student attending Solano Community College. And I'm here today to talk about the benefits of schools serving breakfast and lunch to students during the week. When I attended Benicia High School, every day like clockwork, I would find myself along with many others in the lunchroom taking a break and getting ready for the latter half of the day. Lunch was offered in many different shapes and sizes, and school would have been much more difficult without it. However, since I have graduated, breakfast items have since been added to the menus of schools, as well as healthier foods to lunchtime, having their own benefits as well. Schools serving breakfast to students offers many benefits consisting of several kinds of food, the choice of the student to get what they want to eat that day, and the coverage of all food groups to maintain a healthy diet. Due to schools offering breakfast, students who are rushed for time in the morning can still get the nutrition they need to focus on schoolwork and the energy to get start strong on any day. Healthy school lunches provide extremely important energy to students in the middle of the day. Options range from sandwiches, chicken, burgers, salads, and fruits and vegetables. These daily choices allow students to select what they want to eat and get the nutritional value they need. With a reasonable price and time to enjoy their food, students are also able to socialize with friends and classmates, which means that students have time to do what they want and need in order to remain happy and productive during the day. Finally, I want to thank the school board for adding breakfast for the students and increasing healthy lunch options. This allows students to get vital nutrients and have an energetic and productive school day. Thank you for your time and patience, and have a nice night.
Thank you.
Following Azita will be Ronnie Archana.
Good evening. My name's Azita. I have attended Benicia Public Schools since elementary school, where I started playing tennis, and I have just started my junior year at the high school, where I still continue to play with the varsity team. Throughout my academic career at the high school, I have maintained and exceeded a 4.0 GPA. I participate in band, a number of clubs, site council, and the city's Parks, Recreation, and Cemetery Commission as a youth commissioner. I know it probably sounds like I'm trying to show off my accomplishments throughout high school, but in reality, all of the boys and girls who play tennis with the high school have achieved just as much or more than I have. Compared to the other fall sports at BHS, girls tennis has the highest overall GPA for the first quarter, a 3.95 average for all 25 of us. Also, the girls tennis team has been undefeated for years and held the record last year for longest winning streak in the SCAC. Not only do we strive to be the best academically, we also strive to be the best athletes possible. However, it has become increasingly difficult for us to perform at the top of our game due to the poor nature of our courts. Our courts are impaired in quality and are full of cracks and large bumps. We, along with many other tennis enthusiasts in town, find it extremely difficult and unsafe to play and practice on our own courts. Like Neha mentioned, every time we have a home match, Coach Voss has to mention to both teams that we should watch for the hill on court 5, and that it'll feel like you're running uphill because you are. No tennis team can play to the best of their abilities with obstacles such as these, and no team should be expected to play on courts like ours in their current condition. Additionally, like Neha also said, it's embarrassing for other teams to come and play on our courts, especially in a new league where all their schools have recently renovated courts. It's always a nice change when we go to play away matches because they always have nice courts. With the high success of both the girls and boys tennis team in terms of playing and academics, I don't understand how fixing these courts is not a priority to the school board. They provide a safe environment for many kids to learn on and play competitively on, and it is vital that they be fixed to ensure safety and proper playing. I thank you for your time and hope you will strongly consider using the money remaining in Measure S to repair the tennis courts.
Thank you.
After
Good,
Ronnie will be David Archana.
good evening. My name is Ronnie Encheta, a 14-year resident of Benicia. I have two children, Galen and Ethan, who currently attend school here in the city, both having started at Joe Henderson Elementary. Galen is currently a 7th grader in Benicia Middle School, while Ethan is a senior at Benicia High. Both of them play tennis. Ethan's a member of the Benicia High boys tennis varsity team, a team that had just won the SCAC League Championship in May of this year. If someone were to tell me 5 years ago, back in 2013, that my son Ethan, who was in 7th grade at Benicia Middle School during that time, would someday be the number 3 seed of Benicia High's team, High's tennis team, I would never have believed it. Why is that? Well, he and I didn't know anything about tennis. I just wanted him to try something new. Most importantly, I wanted him to be more active and healthier, to learn to socially engage with other kids instead of being in the house playing video games. I didn't know whether he was going to like tennis or keep up with it, but the fact is he was offered the opportunity to learn and to play. If it wasn't for the Benicia Community Tennis Association promoting this after-school program, my son would have never been exposed to a sport that he now is passionate about. Just like when he was introduced to water polo at Jaden Demas Pool during the summer months, or offered an introductory course in wrestling at the BMS taught by the high school coaches. There was a program that was offered and a place where he could learn. The very first place where Ethan held a tennis racket was at the BMS tennis courts, located in the very back corner of the school where no one seemed to go. The surface of the courts were full of cracks, which one can easily trip on. 5 years later, my daughter is practicing tennis in the same dilapidated courts that Ethan once played in. There has not been any improvements. How does one expect to be competitive in the sport of tennis here in Benicia if one is playing on cracked concrete courts? You know the saying, if they build it, they will come. Build better tennis courts for our kids in Benicia so they may be inspired to become a Serena Williams or a Roger Federer. I would never have imagined that my son chose to play tennis over wrestling or water polo. I do believe Benicia has a large tennis community, but there's just not enough places to play in the city. We should start by fixing our existing schools tennis courts so there would be a safe and enjoyable place for our kids can practice and play. I would like to thank this board for listening to me and to the Benicia Community Tennis Association for their support and encouragement, especially to our young kids who are just beginning in the sport of tennis. Thank you.
Thank you. Galen?
Following Galen will be Ethan.
Hello, good evening, everyone. My name is Galen Chetta, and I'm a student at Benicia Middle School, 7th grade. I attend the after-school tennis practice with Coach Mack, and from personal experience, tennis courts aren't the best. It has many cracks and spots where people can trip. It's very rough and uneven at some places. During tennis practice, we have to play on those tennis courts, and it affects how we play at times. For instance, because of the cracks, the ball bounces the wrong way and we wouldn't be able to hit the ball correctly or at all. My goal is to be on the girls' tennis team in high school. We don't just use the tennis courts for tennis, but also for activities in PE, like hockey, pickleball, and fitness days. A lot of my classmates have tripped and hurt themselves to the point where they have bled. Other PE classes use these courts as well. Overall, the tennis courts is a safety hazard and we need to fix it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Following Ethan will be Mary Byer.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ethan Inchetta. As my father previously stated, I'm currently a senior at Benicia High School, and I've participated in tennis in Benicia for 6 years, starting at the age of 12 in 7th grade. And I'm also ranked number 3 on the boys varsity tennis team and the president of the high school tennis club, educating interested students about the sport and scheduling after-school practices. Over time, I've gradually come to realize that the middle school and high school courts have much wear and tear from their frequent use. I believe there should be more funding to revitalize them. On some occasions, community tennis players must compete to save a court to tennis practice during the evening. If the city made lights to illuminate the high school courts, more courts would be available for use. Many cracks have also formed on the high school tennis courts, as well as uneven leveling on one of them. Despite these factors, the girls and boys tennis team in Benicia High have continued to strengthen the city's reputation, claiming many titles in the SCAC League. With more court funding, the school team would be able to perform well while also being proud of their school courts. The Benicia Tennis Association is much more than a group of individuals who care about their self-interest. It consists of many hardworking people who also care about the community. They've taken many actions to impact other fundraisers and causes, such as holding tennis clinics to raise money to buy toys for children. Their impact on the community reaches farther bounds than the game. I'm proud to be a part of a community of generous people, and we deserve to have our efforts displayed in the conditions of our courts. I hope you will all consider my thoughts and help the tennis community in Benicia.
Thank you. Mrs. Bayer?
After Mary will be JoJo.
I'm still writing it.
Go, Mary.
My name is Mary Byer. My husband and I are currently empty nesters, with my youngest just graduated in 2018. Ms. Kleinschmidt said she thought she would never see me here at these board meetings again, but here I am. We lived in Benicia for over 20 years, and our daughters grew up here in Benicia schools. They both learned to play and love tennis thanks to the BCTA and the wonderful coach they've had. Like Mr. Inchina said, I would never have expected my daughter to be playing for the University of Alabama's traveling team currently. Okay. Without the support of the BCTA and their community members. Several years ago, you guys sold us on a bill of goods called Measure S. You promised that we will be able to get all kinds of safety fixes for all the schools, not just the stadium, but many other upgrades that were included in that list, including the tennis courts at both the middle and the high school. These courts, which were gravely in need of upgrade at the time, based upon your assurance that they would be fixed, and now you're telling us there's no more money left from the $49 million. What we paid for was the Tesla, but we got a nice shiny Civic. The price of the stadium went from $3 million to $12 million with no control by the oversight committee. You guys are either incompetent, corrupt, or had been robbed blind. I no longer have any trust in the board or the oversight committee to manage my tax dollar. And based upon all I have seen in the past several years, and I've been to many, many board meetings, I do not plan to vote for any further funding for the school district, and I plan to work against it if there is any further in the future. Roll Tide.
Hi, Jojo Donetti, Benicia Community Tennis Association. Over the years, the BCTA has donated $15,000 to repair the courts at the high school back in 2010. We set up a donation account with Mr. Ray Hill in 2012 that people could give donations to. It has over $2,500 in it. We donated a new ball machine to the high school teams, over $2,400 in 2014. We donated $600 to the girls' high school tennis team as a matching fund for their fundraising in 2015. Sorry, that's my conference call. We donated 5 new nets last year in 2017 for $800. We built 4 benches and donated them to the high school in 2016. We donated $450 worth of boys' uniforms last spring. We donated $1,000 worth of girls' warm-up jerseys this past fall. Since 2014, the percentage of the girls' high school team that has participated in the BCTA junior program has gone from 45% to 72% this year. We have 6 league championships. We have 1 section championship, the first ever for a Benicia tennis team. The boys' tennis team has gone from 30% to 60% through our program. It's not coincidental that your high school teams are so strong. It's a result of our program that we've been running since 2011 at the middle school under the strong leadership of Coach Mack and Coach Chris. Thank you. They teach them the core technical fundamentals for all those kids at the middle school on those bad courts. They take the time to make sure the kids learn it right so that they can compete on the high school team and be successful like Neha and Ethan have been, and Azita in the back as well. As a result of all this, and you certainly have the kids who are taking the time. They've got a lot of enthusiasm for the sport. I think you've heard it here tonight. And we certainly have a lot of support of the parents, with Mr. Ancheta, Mrs. Beyer, a lot of them. And it's a shame that we have to play on the courts that we do. It's a shame that we can't run high-performance tennis courses at the middle school where we have kids who are really, really good, like Galen, that need to go to the next level. So we take them to the high school, but the high school's not any good either. We want to continue to grow this sport in the community. We need your help. We need your support to use the Measure S funding that you have to get those courts fixed. Thank you.
Okay, we are going to move on to the consent calendar. All matters listed under the consent calendar are considered by the board to be routine and will be approved by the board in one motion. There will be no discussion on these items unless members of the board, staff, or public request specific items to be pulled and discussed. Do I have a motion to approve the consent calendar as presented?
I'll make a motion to present.
Do I have a
Approve.
second?
What?
Do I have any comments? All in favor? Aye. Aye, okay, just right. All right, any nays? All in favor, the motion carries. All right, let's move on to discussion items, please, and that would be the Measure S quarterly update on the school facilities bond projects.
Very good. Yeah, I'm happy to tee this up. I'd like to welcome Ms. Egan, our bond director, to the podium. She will also be joined this evening by Lee Pollard, the architect, one of the architects we've been working with successfully with HYA Architects. And so Ms. Egan will spend some time with us this evening, giving us an update on all of the many projects that we've done and the prudent expenditures following the plan that we've put together and the 5 levels of that plan. And then a particular focus on the next big project after the stadium at the high school is the middle school project. So welcome, Ms. Egan.
Thank you. I was just going to give you an overview first of the approach, which follows right in line with what Charles was saying, summarizing what we talked about in our most recent results of the Citizens Bond Oversight Committee meeting. And then I'm going to ask Lee to join me at this podium to talk about the design updates. And from there, we'll go to the schedule for the phase 1 construction at the middle school. So we had our last quarterly Citizens Bond Oversight Committee meeting on October 24th, and it was well attended. At that time, they voted to reappoint the incumbent Scott Burford for the committee chair, and then David Sells was elected to the vice chair. The next oversight committee meeting is January 30th. And then I've shared out of the packet just the bond list up there, and I was going to give you some updates on things. So the projects that are in construction, the fire alarm projects at the Mary Farmer and Robert Semple are proceeding well. We had initially, so their contractual deadline is February 28th to be complete. We fully expect they'll be complete well in advance of that. And then the locker room HVAC updates are in construction. They are working. They're not done yet, but they're proceeding well. It's getting there, and they have functioning. They've had partial functioning units, at least giving some reprieve to the high school, and the high school has been grateful. We have hopefully within like the next month, everything will be 100% complete. So the projects that are in progress on the right-hand side in the list, we have, I'm going to skip past the middle school because we're going to have a more expanded conversation on that. The Mary Farmer Elementary School modernization, we went out for a request for qualifications for architectural services, and we'll be making some decisions on that before the end of this year, and probably, if not before the end of the year, coming to the board early next year to make a selection for the appointment for who will be helping us with that, and then queuing up the design work for that construction. Matthew Turner Elementary fire alarm upgrades, those were submitted to DSA in November. So there's 2 phases of their DSA approval. They're in the first review phase. We're hoping to have approval by the end of the year, and then we'll look out for construction dates to start the fire alarm updates. Joe Henderson Elementary, they have for fire alarm upgrades, DSA appointment on December 6th. So again, probably a month to 2 months out, we're hoping to get approval for that. And then we'll start queuing in line for construction. I was going to kind of skip through this list and really focus on because this shows everything that is kind of funded and not funded, but allocated for expenses. But I was going to focus more on the ones that are actually progressing in construction right now that are actively moving. So the Benicia High School PAB improvements, as everybody knows, we did not get the grant award last year for the CTE, but Brianna did a lot of work and Lee assisted her, and we were able to get a grant writer that assisted us this year. So that resubmittal to see, because they do a round every year, if we might be able to get some more monies, was submitted in November. They do the first scoring process early in February. If you score high enough, then you go into the second round. So by June, we should know really if we are awarded anything or not. And then the Joe Henderson Elementary School, We had for the bathroom replacements, we're looking maybe like a year out, and there was also some other work with the daycare out there that they were able to get some grant money for, and so we may pair them together and maybe look for like 2020 as a possibility to try to get some of that moving. With that, I think I'm gonna ask Lee to come join us at the up here and talk about the middle school modernization with updates from.
Thank you. So I'm going to give you a quick update on the design status and where we are, review the design for phase one of the, well, that almost worked, didn't it? Okay. Should have got you a PowerPoint, sorry. So I'm going to talk about phase one of our work at Benicia Middle School. If you recall, we have 3 phases in our project here. The first one is the new classrooms and the front, what we refer to as front of school. Second phase is modernization of the classrooms throughout the campus and including some of the exterior areas of the campus. And phase 3 is the food service area upgrades over next to the music building. Phase 1 is shown with the dotted line on the screen there right now, but you probably can't really see that dotted line too well. So if you could go to the next page, please. Okay. There we go. That area in blue represents the scope of work in our phase 1. Go to the next one, please. So if we take off the blue again so that you can look at it, on the left-hand side, we have the new classroom building, which will have 3 classrooms, where we are fixing up the exterior area outside of that classroom, which right now is just simply a fire lane, and we're improving that for outdoor student learning areas. Along the front of the school, we're providing a new fence and wall to separate Building B from the public areas, because we're increasing student access to the classrooms and the library space in there, providing outdoor learning space in there, and also improving the security at the front of the school. That also ties over to the entry of the front of the school, where we're doing the same thing in terms of improving that and providing seating and extra space out there, so that there's both a gathering area for the beginning of school and after school, but also allowing them to close off the school during the school day to improve security. And finally, over to the far right on the screen, there is we're doing some work to create accessible parking spaces. You do have some spaces on the campus right now, but they are not compliant with current law. And so part of what we need to do, and DSA requires this, is improve those. Next slide, please. So what does this look like? These are images of the front of the school. The top image is kind of an aerial image that shows the fence that we're putting in there along the front of the school and the outdoor student learning areas. The one you see there with the 2 umbrellas will be right outside of where we're planning to put the new drama classroom within that building, and also right outside of the library. We're providing some seating areas, a trellis to kind of provide some shade out there, and we're hoping to use the colors to brighten up the front of the campus. Well, today it probably wouldn't work because it's pretty gray out there in the world, but we're hoping that once we get past this, the bottom image is what that would look like as you're driving up. Next slide, please. Zooming in on that a little bit, we also are putting in a marquee and some improving some signage at the front office so that people who arrive know where the front of the school is. Right now, if you're a stranger to Benicia, I know everybody here has been there a lot, but if you're a new person to Benicia, you pull up and you kind of have to look around to figure out where the front door is. And we're trying to enhance that front door and also do gatekeeping, where strangers who come to the school have to go to the office that's there at the front of the school, so and basically check in. They now have a new system for giving badges to visitors as well to enhance that security effort there. Next slide, please. Looking directly on from if you're coming across a crosswalk, this is what that the front of the school would look like. We're trying to use the colors to try to lighten up and brighten up the school and make it more inviting for both students and parents. Next slide. Architects have to draw elevations of a building, and so we've done an elevation. The top one is just an elevation that shows the zoom in at the front of at the front entry of the school, and the bottom image is the entire front going all the way over to where on the far right hand side we're going to put our new modular classrooms. And so if you can go to the next slide, I want to start talking. Oh, excuse me, I forgot about this. The images there, if you can scroll back to the previous slide, please. If you look at the images there, we have stone walls in some places, and then we're showing what's kind of a light orangish color that is a punched metal fence there. And for ease of our efforts in kind of creating these renderings, we use kind of a slot look there, but that's not what we have to end up with. And if you go to the next slide there, we have a lot of open options under these that are standard manufactured things that can kind of give it a little bit of flair at the front of the school. These would provide light into the student areas, but also have small enough openings that they can't be used to pass stuff through, and also can kind of provide the security we're looking for at the front. Next slide, please. And so then when we get over to our classrooms on the far end, we're going to put an exterior design on those that match the rest of this design using veneer stone in the exterior of the buildings. Excuse me. Stucco on the buildings, and try to make them all fit into this new front, which we are then going to carry out throughout the rest of the campus when we get to the next phase of design. Next, please. That's just a further look at that. If we can go to the classrooms, I refer to these as modular classrooms. These are not portable classrooms like you would see, well, in a lot of places. These are actually modular buildings that are built off-site, they're brought on-site, they're put on real foundations. When they are finished, you add stucco to the exterior or whatever finish you want, and everybody except for architects who are experts in school construction think that they are real buildings that are built there on site, because they are so good at that. In designing these things, we've developed a design to kind of work with the efforts of the educators here to kind of create a 21st century classrooms for your students. That includes full height whiteboards at the front and back walls. We're providing power and data at multiple locations around the room, so that teachers can have can choose places for their desk, and can also have areas where students can work. We're providing power and data for multiple locations for wall-mounted TVs like this, so that depending on the teacher and the classes, we can provide all that technology that the kids need. You can go to the next slide, please. We are also providing shelving for books along the window wall, and near the front entry, we're providing bench seating that will open up and will allow for laptop chargers. So whether it's Chromebooks or whatever you have, we can charge them in the classroom, pull that down, lock them, and just leave them in the classroom, so that can be a standard throughout the school, and we're really getting to where we have a 21st century education, buildings built for a 21st century education. Next slide, please. Within that, we will also be working on, and I know that the district has people working on furniture selection. These are just a few images of what that could look like. I think that's going to be a process that's going to be happening this spring as you work through what you want in these classrooms, and there's a lot of variety out there on the market for furniture. Next, please. Finally, one of the concerns that the school has had was the number of parking spaces that you have on the campus. Over on the far left in this image, you can see that that dashed in area in blue is the area we're taking out to put the new buildings in. We're losing about 16 of the 99 parking spaces you have on campus. And there's been some concern expressed about that loss. And so we dove in and studied it and developed a plan for slurring the entire lot and then restriping, and that would be the next slide, please. Where by redoing this, we're taking some stuff right across from the main entry and using that as diagonal parking spaces because it's one-way traffic. We're providing curbside spaces along in front of the thing for parents and visitors. And then we're restriping on the far right-hand side near the courts to get more parking spaces out of that. And we're providing the new handicap parking spaces that I talked about before. And so in the end, we'll end up with 91 spaces. So we're only having a net loss of 8 spaces where we were taking out 16 before. The other thing that we're doing here is at the front of the school, both on that new wall that's separating the school from the roadway and across the parking lot, we're providing new lighting so that front of the school can be well lit at night, because in the winter time like now, if you show up at 5:30, it's pretty dark out there. So that's my presentation. I'll turn it back over to Roxanne.
So the last thing we were going to talk about with the middle school was just the schedule for construction. So again, this is just phase 1. There's many phases that are yet to come. And the other thing I want to share out is that we are we have our baseline Prop 51 submittals that we're hoping, we don't know when we'll hear back on them, but that's in the works. So there's potential for more money there. And then we also, on the middle school, are working on a seismic grant application that gets priority over the other baseline applications that are already submitted. So keeping our due diligence, trying to find more money sources, and our fingers crossed that it'll come through. So schedule for the phase 1, we are going out to bid. Expect advertisements to hit the paper by the end of this month, and then looking for a bid due date of January 1st, or excuse me, January 10th, 1st. And then if we, receive good bids, and by the time we come to the board and do everything, it would look like construction starting, because you have to get your insurance and all of those types of things. Middle to end of February, having construction start. The great thing is that we're so happy this is kind of up in a corner of campus that it can exist and school can go on and all of those fun things. In the big picture, the end date for the construction and kind of the target, and we went through a lot of gyrations with this and trying to find out what's the best fit. And of course, we all want it as soon as possible. But we learned with the fire alarms and other things that making it too tight means we don't get very good bids, and then we end up with escalated prices that might not necessarily be, absolutely required. So what we came with in talking to a lot of the contractors and everybody was, we plan that the construction by the contractor, setting a date that they'll be complete by November 31st, 100% completion. That'll give a month in December for our IT. After their work is done, there's always work interdistrict that has to be done before they can be occupied, so that by the time the teachers leave in December 2019, when they come back, everything would be 100% done. Within that, we have set some timelines, kind of targets for enthusiasm, and also keeping progress moving and realistic expectations. So the front of the school entry upgrades, the fencing and stuff, we're targeting to have those complete prior to the start of school in the fall of 2019. At least that'll, give some encouragement to everybody. Having the building set in the end of October, so that you'll see that progression. Part of the delay and the need is that the building manufacturers have such high demand all summer for work that has to be done, that you're going to hit prime pricing to try to push it in the summer before everything's done. Any questions?
I just want to say I've seen the modular buildings. Pittsburgh High School has the new modular buildings, and they're really amazing. You would not. You can walk in, walk through them. They're so functional. They're really great. So if you haven't been in them, I know I had certain expectations about the terms modular or thing, and they've improved considerably. So I think it's a good way to go.
Thank you.
Roxanne, can you clarify a little bit about our applications for getting some additional funding back? You went through it really quickly and I
Sure.
didn't capture all of it.
So last year, it's kind of hard because there's a lot of different pots and they all have some of the same names.
Mhm.
But so the overall umbrella for additional funding that the state's releasing is called Prop 51. Within that, there's essentially different, I'm going to call them categories or buckets. One of them is the CTE grant that we have submitted that we just resubmitted. So that's each different category has different eligibility for funding. So if you might max out in one, doesn't mean that you can't still get the other one. So there's one that's the CTE grant funding. There's a second one that's overall, the best way I can explain it is eligibility funding. And it's based on a whole bunch of stuff like how long have you had your buildings? When did you, what is your student enrollment? And it's a whole matrix that we have a consultant specialist who advises us on. But anyhow, so we have 9 applications or 7 that we submitted last year, and they go across all the districts that had eligibility within the district. So it obviously wasn't 7, it was 5 that we submitted. And then the third eligibility application or category is called hardships. And so it, things like seismic upgrades are eligible in it, things that, actually we've learned that some of our fire alarm upgrades may be eligible. So we just are working through the steps for, even though the high school, we, already built it, we may be able to get some subsequent funding that would back fund what we already spent to help us pay that off. So we're submitting it for the high school fire alarm, Joe Henderson fire alarm, Matthew Turner. There's certain criteria. So like every single fire alarm isn't eligible for us to put them in. Liberties is going to get submitted. And the ones that are in that category actually get prioritized in their allocation over the other ones. So that's kind of hopeful. As far as timelines on the general category, I think that with the new governor, they're trying to push for, they have so much money that was, approved by the state, but right now they're only allocating, I don't know what the number is, a certain number every year. So they're not paying it all out. And so they had such of a backlash. I think right now they're on like 2015 applications or something that they're allocating funding for. So we don't really have like, here's your set timeline, but we're in line and we go through the process. You're welcome.
Too, I know you mentioned real quickly that Mary Farmer's modernization project will be coming up soon to begin that process. And you will be including the staff and the principal in that?
Absolutely.
Project.
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely. And just along those same lines, we met with Damien's staff about a month ago, maybe, because he has his site committee that is the middle school specific site facilities committee, and reviewed the upgrades with the design with them. And part of those conversations, and some of it has been shared with me from Melissa and Mary Farmer as well, is talking about what are the furniture needs within the classrooms as we start building these. I don't mean furniture, I'm sorry, I mean casement, for storage. And so trying to set a standard so that as we build these, we get matching cabinetry and as much possible in the classrooms, because that's really been identified as a need. But it was really well received with Damien's staff talking about, here's cabinetry. And I think that the casework will look a little bit different in like an elementary classroom versus a middle school. But at least, absolutely, yep, having those conversations, and we'll be working with the Mary Farmer staff, definitely. You're welcome.
Sure. So, and what about the portables at Farmer?
So that's, and when we look at the design and start through we're going to master plan the entire site, and then we're going to prioritize. Right now there's $4 million allocated for their upgrades. And, if we find more, then it will expand, but we're going to master plan everything. And that way we can say, here's our first priority, but, and then fund the part that gets most. So right now I don't know until we go through that step, what is phase 1 of the Mary Farmer modernization that fits to our budget, but it's certainly there. It's everybody is well aware that they need some love, that they have a lot of need. Yeah.
How much does classrooms that are sinking?
Yeah.
Yes.
How much does a portable cost?
Well, there's a lot of factors to that. Like, Lee, do you want to talk about that?
Well, so just a standard out of the box, portable that just as ugly and cheap as you can find, installed is probably about $100,000 per. A modular classroom that we're talking about here is probably about $400,000. There's a big difference there. A stick-built classroom, if you bid it last year or earlier this year when things were really hot in the construction industry, is probably about $650,000. So that's the going rate for classrooms right now.
And Lee, does that include all the foundation, site work, electrical?
Yeah,
and
that includes all the cost of getting them in. So there's a bit of site work around it and that sort of stuff. Hey, you can probably get the just buy the portable itself for something like $40,000 to $50,000, but there's always the cost of providing electrical data, fire alarm, and all that sort of stuff to it. That almost always takes that raw cost and doubles it. And so that's the reason why I gave you about $100,000 for it.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay.
So Lee, one more question. No,
Okay.
Go ahead, Celeste.
This is for Roxanne.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
I'll
All right, go ahead.
I'll let you find it out.
No, go
I was just curious. So the fire alarms, is that part of the $4 million?
So yeah, it is.
Okay.
It's an allowance. Right now it's kind of like, oh, wait, no, I'm sorry. You mean the fire alarm that we're in construction for right now?
Yeah. Because that's a lot of money.
No, it's
Okay.
not.
So it's not included.
No,
in that
there's
amount.
separate funding for that. Yeah. So $4 million in addition to the fire alarm project. Yeah.
And then one more quick question. A lot of people are here and have spoke about the tennis courts. So I'm curious about that in terms of our plan.
So the tennis courts, and I'll let Lee give me backup support here, but initially the design for the middle school was at the lower lot, and the buildings were going to be built on top of the tennis courts. And so in part of their prioritization, it was that we need new classrooms and they're going on the lower lots, and that includes new tennis courts. But it was necessitated because of the location of the buildings. When they did their prioritization at the site and in our master planning, it wasn't that the tennis courts, so we had our criteria that we identified, here's how we're going to get what's rated or what's not. It was number of people touched. Do you want to speak to this?
No, you're doing just fine. I was just
That's with all of the criteria that help me out with what are our criteria in determining number of students touched.
Yeah, the criteria was basically, it was the discussion about that led us to doing the modular classrooms up on the parking lot, was that we felt that for the same amount of money that we'd been, or actually for a lot less than we'd be spending down below, we could get more students in upgraded classrooms. The original budget was basically just to replace the portables on the lower campus and not to do anything throughout the rest of the campus. So only those kids who were going down to those particular classrooms would get an improved educational environment. And this revised design allows us to have money to do modernization on every classroom throughout the middle school. And so that solution helps provide upgraded educational facilities for every kid who attends Benicia Middle School, not just the ones who might happen to have classes down in those particular new portables or new modular classrooms. That was the logic behind that shift in our design.
Wasn't part of our discussion too that we didn't need all those additional classrooms because of the enrollment at the middle school?
That's correct, yes.
That I think was also a big factor.
What does that mean in terms of the status of the tennis courts at the middle school?
Well, right now we don't have anything in our current construction budget for upgrading those tennis courts at the middle school, because we're using that all on the rest of it. It of course is up to the board and the district to choose your priorities with regard to where you spend your money.
And just to kind of add to that, so I think that we've had conversations about the need, with our facilities master plan is $153 million was the identified need, and there's so much need that needs to be done, and it's really hard decisions. So right now we're on the phase 1, and I think that we would all like to do the tennis courts and get them done, but how do you prioritize and what gets put in there? So we're trying to use our prioritization within our master plan as a guiding, here's your process. There are exceptions that can be made as the steering committee, and it ultimately would come to the board to say, yes, or we want to adjust this, or no, we don't. And I think that we're hopeful if we get more money, that maybe there's still opportunity. I don't think the answer is just a closed door no. And their district has also been looking at some opportunities within maintenance if they could help to do some stuff with them.
I know there's been a lot of talk in the maintenance about working that this coming summer.
Yeah.
So I know they have some funds that they were looking at getting and be able to do that.
And that would be awesome. Yeah. Okay. Sure.
Can I just close that by saying, we're really excited about that project. I mean, it's, it has sort of this, sort of the somber tone to it. You guys did a great job, but, I think we're doing, great work with Bond, and certainly open to feedback and always wanting to get better. But that middle school, that next big project, we're really excited about how it's shaping up and what it looks like. And like that line by Winston Churchill, we shape the buildings and thereafter they shape us. And that's a very old and dark place. It's a great school, but it needs to be updated. And that was part of our thinking in the facilities master plan. So we're excited moving forward, and think the good work with Miss Egan, and certainly our architect and the rest of the team.
And it's been a year and a half, 2-year planning. I mean, I remember the first meeting probably 2 years ago, and it's like, oh, this is never going to happen.
Right.
I mean, everybody was going 100 different directions, and so then Damien brought stuff together, and as well as our architect and everything. So,
Right.
Thank you. Thanks, Lee.
Okay, thank you. All right, let's move on to number 13, which is the non-consent action items, and that would be the consideration and approval of the secondary site single plans for student achievement for 18-19.
Very good. At the last board meeting, we had an opportunity to hear the school plans from the elementary school principals. They did a terrific job. This is a yearly event where the principals bring their school plans. They've been working on very diligently with their teachers and staff, and running it by school site council. And so they are here this evening to talk about goals, actions, metrics, and progress for last year, and then ideas about moving forward. So we would like to start with middle school with Mr. Scott. Welcome.
Am I doing this?
You did it. All right.
You are now.
I am now. All right. So, well, thank you for having us. Not that I had a choice of being here, but I am thankful and proud that I can share kind of the progress on our goals, and then also the reflection on last year's goals and some of our thoughts and ideas and plans moving forward, and how to continue to make our middle school the best place we can for our students. As you can see up here, these are last year's goals. We've had 3 goals for several years now, and we have a goal in math, a goal in English language arts, and then a social-emotional type goal. Last year, through site council set really a overall goal in math and ELA, but then also sub goals, so a goal for growth in 6th grade, 7th grade, and 8th grade. And overall, it was really to see a 5% increase in each of those. So a 5% increase in overall math, 5% increase overall ELA, and then the same at each grade level. One of the glows or highlights was 7th grade continues in both math and ELA to make progress. And it's nice to see sometimes 7th grade you hear in middle school, they're caught in the middle of the middle. And it's really nice to see them really shine on that. Overall in the math and ELA, just the honest truth, it's up there. We didn't meet our goals. We just didn't meet our goals. And we'll talk a little bit, or I'll talk a little bit about things that we can do and things we're looking at and talking about and how we can make progress moving forward. Our third goal was really on a social emotional goal. We used the REACH survey as kind of the testing ground for that. The way we set our goal before, and you can look it up there, is it was the overall REACH score. It has lots of components about relationships, heart, aspirations, cognition, but the relational piece is huge. That's the overall aspect. We didn't know this at the time when we took this in May of last year. They no longer give us that overall score. And I'll talk about how we're going to tweak that going forward, but it wasn't really a way to judge it because they didn't give us that score and we didn't know that at the time. Let's move on to what our goals are going to be, or what we want to set forth. So one of the things that we had plenty of conversation on these goals is, we felt strongly that we still need English goal, we still need a math goal and a social emotional goal. And site council in particular, there's so much hemming and hawing and conversations about twofold of goals. One is, who do we think we want to be? Who do we think we are? And what do we think our students can perform at? And with that, so we wanted aspirational goals, but also attainable goals. We didn't want to set the bar too far and then say, again, we don't get there, and that's kind of deflating. So we wanted to set a growth goal, but something that we know or think we can help and support our students to get to. And so as we looked at those, the team on the site council decided that really want to see 5% growth in math and ELA, and that's not only the overall, but at each of the grade levels. And then for our social emotional goal, the REACH survey, we felt that 75% of what our students report on a developmental relationship of how they view the student-teacher relationship was one that's something that we want. We want our students to feel like they have a staff member, a teacher that they have that developmental relationship with. And having 75% of our students report that seemed reasonable, and it was attainable, and it's what we set forth in our overall REACH goal before. So that is one that we feel strongly with. In that goal in particular, they give one of the subcategories of student-teacher relationships in the REACH, and we dropped in that from a 62 to 51 in between the 2 years of giving the survey. Some of the things that we want to do is that's a one-time score, right? So it's once every 2 years. One of the things that came out was we really want to see, instead of having all this lag data, we want to see some lead data. So what is that data now, and how can we adjust it instead of waiting a year or 2 years? So we're going to talk to the other principal here. One of the things that came out of our site council and some of our parents and teachers thought it would be a wonderful idea is take some of those questions from the REACH data, especially the relationship piece, and have maybe some high school students help us facilitate a conversation with our own students. Maybe they're more honest with high school kids than maybe a principal or an adult, and really take the questions and ask them a couple things. What does this mean to you? Maybe they don't understand the question. And then also to figure out, do we need to rephrase some of the questions and then ask them more periodically? So maybe once or twice this year, survey our kids, and then that is lead in time data that maybe we can make adjustments on instead of waiting. So I think that'll help kind of put our thumb on our students and giving us that feedback. One of the things we've been doing in different formats is really taking a dive in all this data. So we have a lot of the SBAC data, and it tells us some information, doesn't tell us the full picture. When you walk into classrooms, I see the wonderful teaching and learning going on. I see, kids are happy and healthy. But these scores are telling us something. So this is an indication of something. We know we need to take some actions. So within different contexts, within site council, within staff meetings, within department chairs, within teams and grade levels, we've been looking at the data. And really, we're beginning to put into place, what do we want to do? What are some actions, concrete actions we can do? Because some of the things that have come up so far that we've been talking about is really the anatomy of a test question. Do our kids understand what the question is asking them? So really, they're maybe used to being asked a question a certain way, but then the CAS asks it differently. So we need to build our knowledge of that in order to make sure our students are exposed to those types of questions. So what we're teaching might be the same content, but how we're asking it might be slightly different. And we need to match those two so there's not a disconnect. So a little bit of alignment in terms of what we're doing in terms of how they're asking the questions. Other things that we need to continue to do and refine is we have done in the past some interim assessments from the CAS. One of the things we need to do is look at that results a little more and see how does that affect what we're doing. And really, at the end of the day, it's about just the students. I think I've heard loud and clear, and I feel the same way, that I think our students are better than what shows here. And I think our job is to help them see, how this aligns with the work that they're already doing. So a couple highlights. You heard one of the things that is I'm really excited because about the bond project, for one, is I've gone through, as a teacher, I opened 2 different schools. So as a teacher, I was there for brand new schools, and I saw where students came from other schools, and God, the positive effect it had to have this nice new place is huge. And I really hope and expect that this bond process will help all of us. When you pull up now, it's kind of dull and gray, or what is that color? Seafoam? I don't know what it is. But I think, all of those things will help us as adults, us as kids and community members really see, like, this is a wonderful place to be. And it's that transparent, like, yes, come here. This is where you want to be. So I put 3 things up there. Some of the academics already talked about. One of the things that we're starting to explore that maybe you've heard is UDL, Universal Design for Learning. We're just getting our feet wet in that. We had about 6 teachers do a 2-day training earlier this year. We have about 14 more in February attending, so about 20 total by the end of February have attended some training in UDL. And really the goal with that is to help all students. It's a method to remove barriers. One of the analogies that I heard that was really fascinating, and it's not an academic one, is the way UDL can remove barriers is imagine, I was thinking about this on the way in about snow days, or it could be a ash day. But students lining up, ready to go into a building, there's stairs and there's ramp. And you have someone cleaning off the stairs and saying, hold on, you can't come in yet. I'm going to clean this off. And you have a student in a wheelchair and other able-bodied students. And you're like, hold on, I'm going to do the stairs first. And the person in the wheelchair is like, well, if you did the ramp, all of us could get in the building quicker instead of waiting. So that's a good analogy how you remove a barrier. And it's not just for one student, the high end, the low end, the middle student, but it's really for all students. And hopefully that's the goal with this. We're again in our infancy, but that's one of the things we want to look at to help. Some of the other things is our student groups. When we look deeper into the data, one of the student groups that we're focused on is our English language learners. We've started this year an ELAC committee, so English Language Advisory Committee. We've already had 2 different events for parents. We had a cafecita to invite them to come in. They could come in morning and night and just kind of hear their thoughts. How can we make more connections so they're more involved and we can support their students? One of the things that they thought of is doing a parent tech night for EL parents. And so we did that about a week ago. We've also tried, or we've been doing it, and we've attempted to do our newsletters, or the newsletter put out in Spanish and English. And again, just trying to make connections to different people. We also are able this year, luckily, to have a teacher serve as a kind of EL advisor. So her role is to really be that connector between our school and home, and reach out in native languages to try to connect them. And so those are some exciting things. Some other parent night that we just had was on the adolescent brain. And so all of those things I really hope support our students, because bringing our parents in closer, building our knowledge on different strategies is only going to help our students overall. The other one up there is bell schedule. So we had a change in our bell schedule, and I heard someone talk about, I don't know, he's gone, breakfast. So luckily with our new bell schedule, we now serve breakfast, which we didn't before. We have about 2 periods, and we serve brunch, which we didn't before, and then about 2 periods, and then lunch. And so our students have opportunity to buy food regularly or get food regularly, have little breaks throughout the day. And it's also opened up at lunchtime ability to do a little more freedom of activities for kids. So again, building relationships with kids, helping them feel connected to school. This past 2 weeks, we've had a little impromptu 3-on-3 basketball tournament. I know there's thoughts from some of the leadership students to do maybe a lip sync battle during lunch. And so now we have opportunities to have the flexibility to do those things. The gym is now available during lunchtime. It wasn't before because of this. So especially the last couple of days, we were able to go in there and keep kids a little safer with the weather. The other one up there is electives. We have a lot of new electives this year for a middle school. We have in our Wheelworks class, healthy living, kind of learning about healthy inside leads to healthy outside. A lot of kids are learning to grow plants for the first time and just seeing that process. We have a photography class, and you'll see the kids if you've been on campus. They're constantly wandering around with their cameras. I keep asking them to teach me how to use it because all I know is that basic setting on a digital camera. And then there's 2 other ones that are having, I think, big impacts. Our Viking TV is a brand new class, kind of modeled after. We stole the idea from the high school, the Panther TV. And Panther TV, they've been really helpful in being mentors to us. We went up there on a field trip, and they helped us create our episodes, and they're getting better and better each time. So it's pretty awesome. And our service learning class, one of our fantastic teachers, Andrew Janest, has taken that on as a new class, and really kids are learning about projects and what does it really take to put together a service community project, whether it's enhancing the basketball courts, which is one of the projects currently in the works, or doing composting. They're learning, how do you connect to board members? How do you reach out to community members? How do you put together a budget? You have to do research and have a plan to present this to people. So they're learning all those real life skills. And that also leads back to the REACH survey, because another thing that we know based off that is we can do better in connecting sparks, which is what you're doing to real life. That age-old question of, why do I need to know this? And so that's it. These students are really learning all those skills in context instead of isolation. So I love going into those classes and seeing what the kids can do. So really exciting, several new things are exciting there. So that's it. Thank you.
A couple of quick questions for
Yeah.
you. How's your turnout for your parent workshops, and particularly with your EL?
So we did that first one. We did a morning session and afternoon session. Morning session was way better attended. So we're not sure why. Our parent night, this one was less than the last couple of years. And I also know the same night, it was a scheduling thing. I know the high school did one the same night. And so maybe that was part of it. But it was about, I'd have to guesstimate about 30 people. And last year when we did 2, we had about between 60 and 80 parents. So it was less, and I'm not sure why. Yeah.
It's good you're getting some turnout. The other thing is a compliment for your students. Your photography students did the photographs for the drama students for the play. They were amazing. Yeah. They did such a great job. So both groups really benefited from that.
Yeah, and I think it'll also help our Eye of the Viking newspaper and then our yearbook, because all of those kind of intertwine.
Yeah, excellent. The staff are doing a great job with those.
Yeah.
And my daughter's in the photography class. And she's having lots of fun with the headshots and yeah, she's had a great experience.
Thank you. Oh, okay. All right. Thank you.
Good evening. It's nice to be back again in the fall with a new site plan and opportunity to follow up on everything that happened last year with our goals. And it's always fun when there's an audience from Benicia High School here as well. So welcome, everybody. Thank you for forwarding that slide for me. So I'll start with the progress on our 2017-2018 goals. We had 4 goals, and these goals were actually a little bit different for us, 2 in particular. In the past, we haven't set specific goals around our state testing scores. Those have been sort of embedded within our goals, and you'll see that again for our goals for this year. But we really spelled those out last year. And we are learning more and more as we now have, for the first time ever, a group that we have cohort data from 8th grade to 11th grade.
And so we're able to better reflect on setting those goals. And so while we didn't meet our goals specifically for our ELA and our math scores that we set for last year, we still did see increases for that group of students from 8th grade to 11th grade. And so as a group, as a cohort, they did not decline in their percentage that met or exceeded standards. They did show growth. Unfortunately, not the growth that we were looking for as a school site. But what's interesting is we're seeing a bit of a yo-yo effect over the last few years, now that we do have from 2015 through 2018 data. What I've found is our scores have bounced up and down, particularly in English, not as much or not as severely in math. And part of what we're looking at is the number of students who are in our honors and our AP classes for English, and our number of students who are in grade level or above grade level math at the junior year where they take this test. So that'd be our IM3 or possibly pre-calc, pre-calc honors. And so what we're finding are some pretty specific trends in terms of students who are in those classes and how they're performing on the SBAC, which makes sense, being that those are the standards that are tested at the 11th grade level. But with our graduation requirements being that they do not require students to go on to a math level of IM3, many do not, as much as 56%. And so that greatly affects then a student's ability to meet or exceed those standards when they're tested on them in their junior year. And so that's something that we struggle with, to be quite honest. I know our counselors work very hard, and we have seen over the last 4 years a sharp increase in the number of students who are continuing to take math beyond the required level. So as juniors and as seniors, that number is increasing, which is great. That's ultimately our goal. Our goal is student learning. And so we are inspired to see those changes happening, and we hope that those will be reflected in our SBAC scores as our years continue on. I'll go back to our first goal, which was around our school culture, our student-staff relationships. We also use the REACH survey as one source of measurement. We were hoping to see that that score increase from our baseline score of 2 years prior. We didn't, and I think there's a few reasons why. It was interesting to me because all of our actions that fell underneath that goal, there were several different actions that we hoped would get us to that goal, those all were met. We lowered our suspensions, our number of chronically absent students declined. We implemented Tier 1 of PBIS and initiated a system of positives and rewarding positive behavior. All these different things, all these actions and really intentional things that we did were all very positive and were all met, but overall our REACH score decreased. And so we took a look at when we took the REACH survey, and that was April 16th to April 27th, and there was a lot happening at that time of year. And so I think that that might have had some effect as well. There's the internal and the external effects that go into that. And so we do plan to take the REACH survey again this year. We're committed to continuing that work. Our staff has done a lot of work in terms of looking at that data, having discussions, coming up with strategies. It's been actually a great conversation starter. Some of our departments now sort of challenge each other. Our social science department, they all stand outside and welcome students at the door and sometimes challenge each other with different ways that they really can connect with students. So I think that we're seeing great outcomes of that, and hopefully we'll see that reflected there as well. And then our fourth goal was around technology, which was very positive. Was really happy to see that our staff were able to self-assess how they are implementing technology in the classroom and the learning and the growth that's happening there. 73% of our staff reported that they're regular users, and we qualified that with being 3 to 4 times that they're using technology in the classroom as part of instruction. And then that's changing some of how students are doing what they're doing, how they're learning, some of the projects that they're doing. And so all of our staff, 100% of our staff reported that their tech skills grew over last year. And that was through professional development that was offered during our PD days, during staff meetings. We had a few teachers that provided little tips and tricks. Mr. Sonatz is one of our standouts in terms of being able to help our staff with using Illuminate and some of the other programs that he uses. And so that's been a fun way to incorporate that as well. And then final note on this goal, we also had over 20% increase in the number of devices on campus in terms of student access to Chromebooks and computers in the classroom, which was very helpful as well. So for this year's goals, you'll see a little bit of a difference there. You'll see a continued goal in technology. We're always wanting to continue the work that's happening and grow in that area. One of the reasons being that our school accreditation process, our WASC process, is an ongoing process with a review coming up this year because it's been 6 years since they last visited us. I know. Well, we had a mid-cycle visit, a short visit 3 years ago. But yes, 6 years since our last full visit. It's back. And so they will be here in March. So we're actually very excited about that because it's a great opportunity to celebrate what we're doing. It's not an inspection, it's a validation visit. And so they're there to validate the work that we're doing. Our staff is working very hard in focus groups to currently write the self-study report, and we're almost finished up with that draft. Our WASC coordinator, Karen Evangelo, and her assistant coordinator, Sadie O'Neill, have been doing a fantastic job of coordinating that with our staff, our parents, our teachers. Our staff, our parents, and our students. And so our goals this year really do harken back to the critical areas of follow-up that we had from 6 years ago and then from 3 years ago with our WASC visits. We wanted to make sure that we were staying in line with those areas that they provided to us and that we were continuing that work. So technology was a huge area of follow-up from 6 years ago. It was a very different time at Benicia High School. It was hard to get online. You kind of had the little flower of doom when you were trying to find a YouTube video. You had to cross your fingers and know the right people to get a computer lab. So things have changed quite a bit. And 3 years ago when they came back and visited, they noted that. And at that point, the shift in technology was around training, making sure that our staff was receiving the training they needed to keep up with all of this new technology and infrastructure, but then also our students and our parents as well. And so our technology goal continues that work. We have a tech committee that was restarted this year, and we also have a new tech mentor on campus, Rocky Kim, and he's phenomenal. He has set a few goals that are noted here, one of those being to do a tech assessment of each department so that he can better understand where each department is and then how he can help them move forward with their specific needs. Very excited about that. And we continue to do surveys so that we can best fit in our professional development in the areas that it's needed and that it's most helpful. And then continuing our work around how we have students using devices on campus. Lots of discussion about possibility of one-to-one or what that will look like going forward so that we really can harness all of the great work that's been happening. School culture remains a goal that's always very important, and it's something that's just really near and dear to me being an alumni. I think the culture of the school is just so important and really does affect the academic side of what we're doing as well. Those go hand in hand. So we're continuing to implement PBIS, lots of raffles and positives, and we also started this year student recognition every month, where we're having every department nominate at least 2 students, and any of our staff can nominate students. And so we just had our 3rd group of student recognition. We do lunch. We have a local business that provides us with some little certificates and a free pizza. And so it's a really fun event. And this time we had our students bring a friend so that they felt more comfortable. And it was just a really fun atmosphere. We continue to work to decrease our suspensions, though I can tell you, because I have this on my board, I look at it every day, that is a struggle this year due to vaping specifically. So yes. They laugh because they know. It's been tough. It is an uphill battle, and over 50% of our suspensions this year are due to vaping. So we're really looking at education. We've provided several different opportunities for parent education already, and just looking at anything we can do to address that because we want our students at school. We don't want to be suspending them. And then also we are working to offer as many events as possible for students and for parents, whether that's during access period, whether that's after school, just really trying to make everyone feel like they belong and that they're connected to school. And then we have a goal around our use of data. So, and then also one around addressing our achievement gaps. Those 2 goals, I think, will help us to do the work that is necessary to see those increases in our SBAC scores. So rather than have specific goals to move a number, to move a percentage point, we want to do the work that really is the foundation that then we will see the outcome of that in our test scores and in other measurements as well. And so we're doing that with looking at our common assessment system. We're doing that with how we use our collaboration days to look at data. We're doing that by just working in multiple ways around how we use data to better understand how our students are performing and how we can intervene when necessary. And then we are also training our staff in Universal Design for Learning. You heard about UDL at the middle school. We've sent a team as well and are working on those initial phases. That's actually year one of a 3-year goal, because we know it takes a lot more than just 1 year to really train all of the staff and really make these practices become part of how our teachers do what they do every day with our students. Along with Universal Design for Learning, we're also going to be taking our first steps with culturally responsive teaching, because I think that's a really important part of what we do as well. That's what we have heard from our students. That's what we see in our REACH survey as well. And so we want to make sure that that's an important part of not just how we're doing our teaching, our education, but our relationship practices as well. And then involved in that, addressing our achievement gaps is also the fact that we're in our 2nd year of our change to our special education model, that we're doing the inclusion model with push and support and testing center. And so being in the 2nd year of that continues to be somewhat new, but making really good progress as well. And for our highlight, I think our bell schedule is still sort of on the top of a lot of our minds. This is still technically our pilot. And so still a lot of discussion about this. We're constantly asking questions and checking in with everyone, trying to look at it anywhere we can pull data to better understand how access period is being used, if it is making some of the changes that we had hoped it would. One of the effects we had hoped would be that it would help with anxiety, with stress, an opportunity to work on homework, an opportunity to feel like there's a chance to catch up in the middle of the week. And what we are seeing is that our number of Ds and Fs have decreased. When we look at first quarter grades, since we just finished the first quarter, we were able to pull those. Those have decreased every year over the last 2 years. So possibly because of access, maybe is an opportunity to get homework done or to get caught up. It's definitely provided an opportunity for enrichment. We've been able to bring in our career speaker series every month. We've been able to bring in more college presentations, career presentations. And now this year we've added 2 more things, math tutoring. We have peer tutoring on Wednesdays, and then also our senior counselor provided a college application lab every week. And so she has a computer lab open where students can come in and just log on and be working on their college applications with someone there to help them. And so Bell Schedule has been a success. It's definitely still a work in progress, looking at potentially doing more surveys this year, having more discussions this year to see if there's anything that we want to tweak or try next year, since that's the 3rd year of the 3-year pilot already. But overall, it's been really positive. Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Kleinschmidt, real quick, when is the WASC visitation date? Do you know?
Yes, March 3rd to 6th.
Okay.
Yes, we just had our 1-day pre-visit with our visiting committee chair, which went very well. She actually, unfortunately, she does live up in the Paradise Willows area. So hopefully she's faring well considering the fires that are up there. But our visit went very well. She was very happy with what she saw so far, and we're looking forward to the visit from the full team.
Well done. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to thank both Mr. Scott and Ms. Kleinschmidt. I know these involve a lot of work and a lot of time, and there are some really amazing things going on at the schools that are new and that are supporting both teacher support as well as student support. And I really appreciate all that's going on. So I just wanted to make sure that we say thank you. I also really like that we're looking at the 8th grade scores, because really with the high school with only 1 year anymore, you have nothing to ever compared to, and we're supposed to be a K-12 district, and we're supposed to be growing our students. It's supposed to be a learning model. So I like that you're reflecting that back on that. And, I'm wondering if it also might be an advantage to gather and look at the 5th grade scores. I know they're not your scores, but for the middle school, but to see where the kids are coming in from so that you could begin to get a fuller picture as this cohort continues to move through. I just think it might be another opportunity since we're not very big. So, but I just wanted to say thank you for all that you do. Lost my agenda again.
Yes, thanks to you both.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the single plans for the high school and middle school.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, I say the school plans will be passed. Thank you. All right. So now we're going to move to 13.3. Okay, wait a minute. 10%. Okay, we have a public hearing on consideration of action to set the retention for the Benicia Middle School modernization upgrade, all phases at 10% because of the project's complexity. Is that going to be Mr. Rahil? So I'm going to close the board meeting, right? And this is now the public hearing.
So just real quick on the middle school construction modernization upgrade. Generally, the retentions are set at 5% unless you declare them at a public hearing to be substantially complex, as this project is with multiple contractors, portables, and all the different aspects, potentially some seismic retrofitting if we get into the buildings that require that. And we're asking you to set that retention at 10% because of the substantial complexity.
Okay, so I believe, any comments from the board? Discussion? Any comments from the public? Okay, hearing none, seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing, reopen the board meeting, and I would like to call for a recommendation.
I'll recommend approval to set the retention for the middle school modernization upgrade, all phases of the project at 10% because the projects are substantially complex, involving many aspects of the job.
I'll second that.
Are there any comments or questions?
It's a roll call vote.
Okay. With that said, Ms. Jensen, we need a roll call vote.
President Ferrucci?
Yes.
Trustee Holguin?
Yes.
Trustee Monette?
Yes.
Trustee Wing?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, 13.3, consideration and approval of a new classified job description of food services manager. I am assuming that's Dr. Gill?
Thank you. So this recommendation or request came from the Director of Food Service Department and the Food Service Department by itself. So at Benicia Middle School, they started a nutrition program this year, and it's actually doing really amazing. They're very proud of it, how many students are enjoying the nutrition break and how many meals they're serving. Because of the they are now preparing and serving breakfast, nutrition, and lunch to over 1,000 students daily, basically preparing a lot more meals as they did before. There's a need for a lead position at the middle school, which includes decision-making skills, supervision of the staff at the middle school. This position will be fully funded by the Food Service Department by itself, by their profits they're bringing basically to serve the students. It will come from Food Service Fund 13. It does not encroach any general funding. And the recommendation and the request is for the board to approve the new job description of the food service managers as presented. That's the request.
Okay, do I have a motion?
I appreciate that we're putting the money that is being generated by the increased students back into supporting that staff and supporting the students, because they work extremely hard to make that all happen in a really timely manner. So I'll move to approve the new job description for the food services manager as presented.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Are there any comments?
I think it's, it's making preps for when we remodel the kitchen and there at the middle school and expanding that out and everything. So, it's better to serve our students and I know we're getting more and more. I don't know, without Tanya here, I don't know how many more students we are serving, but I know it's jumped up quite a bit from, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I just think it's exciting that the kids are actually tapping into this support and actually taking advantage of it. So I think it's great. So, okay. We have a motion on the floor. Do I have all those in favor say aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes for a food service manager at the job description. Okay, 13.4 is consideration and approval of amendment to the chief business officer's contract.
Yes, I'd like to bring that one forward this evening. This is Mr. Rahill, our CBO. His contract, Tim joined us in June 17th, 2009. And I'm recommending that effective July 1st, 2018, that we renew Mr. Rahill's contract for a 3-year term. That would take him out to June 30, 2021. And I'd just like to note Mr. Rahill's tenure with us and his good work around budget and keeping us in the black and being very accurate with us and helping us steer the financial ship in the right direction. So I'd like to thank you for that, Mr. Rahill. And I bring this adjustment to his amendment to his contract tonight for your consideration and hopeful approval.
Do I have a motion to approve Mr. Rahill's contract?
I move that we approve the amendment to the contract.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Are there any conversations or comments?
I just want to thank Tim for, you hear of other districts and issues that they have and stuff. And it's like, we keep our positive audits and just the hard work that you do in your office and your help and keeping us informed and the community informed on that. So just thank you for that.
And I would just add, I especially appreciate you giving us the detailed answers on all of our questions and really being thoughtful about making sure that everything matches up, everything lines up, and that you're always prepared to do that, even when we kind of on the moment are like, here's what we need today. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Rahill, I also appreciate you. I know you're in the hot seat a lot, and I know I can't imagine managing all those numbers, but thank you.
Absolutely, because I know we are challenged with him every once in a while. As he keeps instructing us and teaching us more and more, so I appreciate that as well. Okay, there's a motion on the floor. Do I have an approval? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion for the contract amendment passes.